What's your question?
If you could give one piece of advice to your grandchildren and great-grandchildren, what would it be? You gotta be careful. Don't stand over behind me, okay? Stand behind me. Behind me.
A piece of advice.
Piece of advice.
Oh,
See, this is a hard question.
It is a hard
that is a hard
Easy.
question.
I already asked the easy question.
That's a hard question.
So if you could give one piece of advice to your grandchildren and great-grandchildren,
I-
what would it be and why?
What would it be and why? Oh, I can't think of an answer to that. I have to think about that.
It might help if you don't think of it as the only piece of advice you can give, but just a piece of advice.
No, but you want to know what an important piece of advice. You don't want to hear some junky piece of advice.
If you have no advice for us, that's fine.
I,
You've given me plenty of good advice over the years.
I can't think of anything really that I would say would be, like a pronouncement from above.
How about if there could be one?
Want to know what kind of piece of advice?
Answer the question.
I can't.
Let me think of an easier question.
But give me an easier question. It's like adding 2 and 2.
Yeah, right.
What?
Who's gonna win the game on Sunday? See, I spent all that time thinking of my good question. Now I gotta think.
But that is a good question. It just so happens it's an excellent question.
Well, try to answer it. If you had to give an answer, what would it be?
Well, I think I have an answer. Something that I have tried to I've tried to live my life that way. And I try not to worry about things that could never happen. That could happen, but might never happen. I try to keep my mind clear from worry, from anticipating things that might never happen. Because you can do that to a point where it becomes a horrible thing, and I saw it with my mother. My mother always worried about things that might never happen. Drove herself and everybody around her crazy. And it never happened. And I'd say, well, you see, it never happened. Well, if it happened, she'd just say to me, if it happened, I would be, ooh, you all right? If it happened, I would be prepared. I would have prepared myself if it happened. And if it didn't happen, I would be that much to the good. And I won't let myself think about things like that. And I think it's made a lot of difference in my life, because I turn out to be not a worrier.
So then the advice, if you were to give that advice to someone, what would the advice be?
I would advise everybody not to worry about things, that you got to live for today. You can't worry about things that can happen tomorrow or things that can happen next week. If they happen, you can't help it. There's nothing you can do. Life has a way of doing things that you can't anticipate half the things that can happen to you in life. And you can't worry about them, because then you spend your whole life worrying about things that may never happen. And why do that?
Good advice. I have one more question for
I
you.
think it's sage advice. Myself.
I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to make Glenn go inside because I know that you want to answer it truthfully. Who's your favorite grandchild? That's what I want to know.
See, that's what
The oldest
that's
is
what
always
Ellen asked me that too. My favorite child. Who's my favorite child?
I think we should go and eat
So that
dinner.
was my question. That was a good question.
That was your question.
Thank you for.
But I think you should take my advice. You know something? I'm
Well, you know
glad
what?
you.
I pretty much
I'm
live
glad
my
you.
life that way.
I'm glad you asked me that, because it made me stop and think. What would I give as advice?
I'll go ahead and take this off so that.
Yeah.
You know,
But I really do think that that is one of the things that I've.
and you know what? People spend a lot of time worrying about
Things.
You're right.
Stuff. About stuff.
That's right.